Roll call, please.
Niles.
Here.
White.
Here.
Stigler.
Here.
Gurecki.
Here.
Buckles.
Here.
Open meeting law and compliance check. The agenda was posted on the 3 village public notice boards, the village website, and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on or before 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay, moving on, citizen comments at this time. Anybody got something they wanna get up and say? Come on up.
Okay. Sandy Hahn, West 230, South 3827 Milky Way Road. I just wanted to comment on the item 9E, which I took note of. I had a couple questions. There really aren't so much comments, but I'm assuming that we meaning the sheriff's department, has some sort of a radar system now, and I'm wondering, well, first I wonder why we would be buying equipment like that for the sheriff's department, but in any case, if it seems to be our responsibility then, and we do decide to buy one, then do we get the old one? I mean, or would they keep the old one because they think it's theirs? And then the other question, of course, would be, excuse me, for whatever the amount is, $2,500 or something like that, will we get a payback? Will we get that many more citations? You know, or is the unit that we have dead? Or I didn't get as far into the packet. I started looking at their website for the radar thing. It's a very nice radar gun. But I didn't see anything about a rationale for why we need it. I just saw the dollar amounts and, you know, whatever. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll be answering a lot of your questions when we get into it. So. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Appointment and confirmation of a plan commissioner member. Appointment and confirmation of public citizen to replace Alan White for the remainder of one-year term to expire on 4/30/2024. I have talked to a person that was given to me as a recommendation from Dan Buchholz, actually. Todd Friedgen, he's for Dean, I guess. I can't hardly get the right pronunciation of that name out, but I'm working on it. He's works for a company that sells fertilizer, lawn care, and golf courses, I'm sorry, that kind of thing. I talked to him, he's a very, very nice man, very congenial, and Dan says that he would bring a lot to the board, so I'm asking for a confirmation. I will make a motion to approve Todd to the Plan Commission. Any comments, questions?
Well, Mr. President, I guess I'd like the opportunity for the board to ask Mr. Friedgen, is that how you pronounce his last name? Friedgen, I'm sorry.
Friedgen, yeah.
Some questions, so we'd be able to act intelligently on this.
Okay, he couldn't, I asked him to be here tonight. He had a meeting in Madison at 6:30 for his business, so he couldn't make it, so. Otherwise, he would have been here tonight.
So frankly, perhaps we could table this until we have the opportunity. I know you made the motion to appoint already, but without the opportunity for us to ask questions, difficult.
Is that a motion to table us?
I believe there's a motion on the floor.
I will rescind that.
So I'll move to table this item until the board has the opportunity to interview Mr. Friedgen and ask him questions so we can move accordingly. So motion to table.
To appoint when? I would recommend that we do it to the next meeting, so he can be at a plan commission. Is our next meeting?
The next planning commission meeting.
Next plan commission meeting?
Yeah, so I'll move to table to the next planning commission meeting. The joint meeting, excuse me.
Okay, and we'll have that on the agenda before the plan commission starts, correct?
Perfect.
Is that right?
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Is there a second to the table motion?
I'll second it.
It's moved and seconded to table the appointment of Todd Friedgen to the next plan commission meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. The reports for the clerk treasurer, DPW, I believe are in your packets. Anybody have any questions to any of the reports that were given? I think Jerry's here. Jerry, you got something you wanna say?
I would. I just wanna, one, give a thanks out to our village fire department. We had a pretty good snowfall, blizzard, whatever you wanna say. Andy contacted me, and through dispatch or whatever, he was able to take tree complaints for us. So our guys could go home, get a break for about 4 hours, get some sleep, you know. We had a lot of hours, so they responded to, I believe it was 23 tree complaints, which was huge for us, so I really appreciate that. Just wanna give them a big thanks and whatever. I also would like to thank our office staff, because they are the ones that are in here fielding these phone calls for plow complaints, which is us, it's a thankless job. But they have to kind of grin and bear it sometimes too, so thanks to them. And I would like to thank our DPW staff back here for giving 110% on call, going above and beyond what it takes. We were out the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 19th, the 22nd, and the 23rd. It was a lot of work, and so my hat's off to all these guys too, because you call them, they're on call. A lot of the tree work, we had a ton of trees, which you guys probably all know, that went down. Mike here is working on something, because a lot of these trees are not our trees. They're residents' trees, they're falling in the road. But when sheriff calls, it's in the road, it's our responsibility to clean them up. So that's what we're doing, so we're trying to come up with some kind of a generic letter that we can send to people that it is not our responsibility to clean up your tree. So, we don't have a major crew, but right now I probably got 2 months, 3 months worth of just cleanup from the trees from the storm. But we need to have a policy that, and we do have a policy, anything over 18 feet off the edge of the road is the resident's concern. But when it falls down, the sheriff calls us, so we have to keep the road clear. So we need to work on that and come up with a policy. And I think Mike is working on a letter that we can send out to the residents and do that.
I'll have to see that letter, because if a tree falls on your property from your neighbors, you're responsible to clean it up. So it's no
Okay,
different
well,
when it falls.
okay, that's something we need to work on then, okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Attorney Macy, we have an ordinance on the books at this time, section 3620, addresses trees and shrubbery obstructing view, intersections, etc. Paragraph D, trees on and adjacent to the highway. In that ordinance, if the tree originates on private property and falls onto the road right of way, that ordinance states that that property owner is responsible for removing it. It's been on the books for years.
It doesn't mean it's legal, predates me. I don't know whether a lawyer wrote it or how it came
Well,
into existence,
why-
I'm just telling you what the law,
If the ordinance isn't legal, why is it there then?
because
Okay.
nobody's challenged it. I don't
We-
know, I can't answer that question, but don't always assume just because it's on the books, some lawyer wrote it and that some lawyer approved it.
And I will tell you that when we had the rainstorms, there were trees that went down, blocked the road. Our guys went out, cleared the road, sent a letter with a copy of ordinance to the property owner, and gave them 30 days, which is standard for any ordinance violation, and they removed the tree from the right of way. As simple as that. We don't have the manpower or,
Hey, I'm not gonna discuss this with you now. But you
Okay.
have to be very careful writing those letters without having legal approval, because if you wrote it wrong, you put the village into extreme liability. That's a fact.
fine, we'll
That's a
type it up
fact. If
and
you
you,
ordered a resident to do something that you didn't have the right to order them to do, that's not legal. I don't think it's proper procedure in any community that I represent that the staff goes out and writes those kind of letters without checking with the village board and checking with the village attorney. In all due respect, that's my position.
Okay.
Put the municipality at liability and exposure with doing that kind of action without checking.
Okay, well, then we need to discuss another one, because there's one that states obstruction of intersections that clearly states that the clerk treasurer is supposed to send it out. And that's on the ordinance, and that's been done in the past too.
That's a whole different situation.
Okay, well, I'm just calling it the way it's written, simple as that.
Well, I think the one thing that we do, the sheriff, you can sit down, Mike, I just, is a general statement for the board, but I think we wanna make the, policy though, that if the sheriff's department calls us at 2 o'clock in the morning and there's a tree in the middle of the road, that we go out and cut it. We're not gonna argue over who's responsible for it at
We
2
have
o'clock
to
in the
go
morning.
and, we have to go.
We've been
We
doing
have
that.
no problem doing that.
Right.
We have no problem doing
I
that.
just wanna make it clear though that we're not changing that.
Like the Attorney Macy says, if there's something, if we do have an ordinance, this is just something we need to look into, because we don't have the manpower and whatever to do it. And I understand we just can't throw a letter out there that we need some legal advice. I get that.
Yeah.
But something does need to get done, because we can't handle doing it. And I mean, if we could send a letter out to the residents and say, this is your responsibility, what does our ordinance state? And if there's an ordinance in place, we need to enforce it.
Okay, let's do what you said, give it to the attorney when you get it done,
Yeah,
and we'll work on it, we'll go from there. How's that?
Okay, 10-4.
Right.
On this, I guess, not on that directly, but just this topic for the reports, I just want to put to the board that I know you all are copied on at least one complaint from a resident regarding the snow plowing on the east side of the village. On January 12th, I had a direct complaint from a resident on the western part of the village complaining about, living at the dead end of a driveway with brand new concrete. They put some traffic cones across their driveway so that the heavy trucks wouldn't go under the brand new concrete. That, according to the resident, felt like that was an irritation to the snowplow driver, who had to back up the short way to the dead end. And so then he was plowed in with boulders like waist high that required some extra work just to be able to get his vehicles out of the driveway. So I gave the information to Bob, and he talked to the DPW staff, and I never got a resolution on it. I guess if we talked to the driver or not, but I know there's at least a couple complaints now of that big snowstorm, and I think there's some common sense when it comes to overall those storms suck for snow plowing and that, but something like that that's never happened before by that driver on that road felt like it's a retaliatory kind of a thing.
Did you ever talk to them, Jerry, about that? I know you and I talked. Mike?
That is
Yeah,
not
you
one of
were
the,
gonna go
yeah,
talk to
that is
them
not one of
afterwards.
the public works routes. That's one of our contractors' routes. I did speak to Brady Workman, who's our contractor, and he said he would address that, so I don't know if it was taken care of or not.
So it wasn't him, it was the other guy? Cause there's two drivers, right?
Well, I don't know who our contractor has in that route, you know?
So it could have been the guy you talked to.
No, I didn't talk to anybody that was the actual plow driver.
Okay.
I talked to Workman Enterprises, who's our contractor,
Okay.
and Brady said he would look into it. Was it rectified?
I went and did it. My big snow blower.
Oh, you,
So you get out.
oh, then what are you whining about?
I'm not one, sir. Yeah, the resident complained about the fact he was plowed in on purpose by that, cause when I went down that road, every single other driveway was good. There was maybe a foot at most of snow, and his had literally, I can show you pictures that Bob didn't give them to you,
Yeah.
like waist-high sized boulders across his driveway, and only his driveway. So
I wanna say that they wouldn't do that intentionally. I mean, that's, sometimes you come into a cul-de-sac or a dead end, and with the kind of amount of snow that we had, it comes off your blade, it's like, oh shit, this guy's got some work to do.
and that's why I said
I
the
hate to
common
say
sense
it,
to all
you know.
that, right, but.
But I did talk to our contractor and brought it up to him, and I said, he didn't think that there was any retaliatory, whatever, but I did, okay, if it happens again, give me a call,
Okay,
all right?
thank you.
Jerry, I just got one question for you. Is it true that we ran out of salt, or how did we use up all our salt in this one storm?
We didn't use it all,
Okay,
no, I mean,
So I was-
our salt shed. I think Luke probably did our report, and maybe that's the way it came out. We can only hold so much salt in that shed out there. So when you're out, 10 days, back to back to back to back to back, to keep that thing full is a problem. We're running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single axle trucks, 10 tons per truck, okay? That shed will hold about 80 tons. So we fill up once, we're damn close to empty. So now, if the guys go out and they gotta move, somebody's gotta come in and top off, there might be a little bit. But the next day, we are kinda screwed. We can go to the county, providing they're there. I know Workman will haul our salt, but sometimes there's nobody at the county to give it to us, so we're out of salt. So I mean, like, what I've been doing is when these guys are done with their route, and that's empty, I send them to the county to grab a load and everything. So at least we got enough to get through the next day. But if we go 4 days, or say on a Sunday, and we don't have any salt, what do we put on the road? You know, I mean, I can call the county and hopefully somebody will, you know, come down and load our trucks. But I mean, they're not just catering to, I know we're buying it from them, but they're not just catering to us. So it is a problem. The salt facility would be freaking huge for us, huge, you know? I mean, it's, okay, we probably went through, with this ice Monday and Tuesday, we probably went through, every truck went through at least 2 loads. So we probably went through 100. You know, that's, you know, it's a lot of salt. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem like that much, but that's what it takes to do. And I, like, say that heavy snowstorm, we didn't go through that much. Cause we're not dropping salt, we're keeping the weight on our trucks to get us through the snow. Maybe drop a little at intersections, whatever. But when you get glare ice like we had Monday and Tuesday, I know we don't have a bare road policy, but open the floodgates and salt the hell out of it. You gotta, you just have to.
well, I know salt doesn't melt
Proceed.
after a certain temperature, so when it was as cold
Grab
as
it,
it was.
and then we had, you know, it got to a point, and I'm sure you watch the news, you know, different, like Milwaukee or whatever. It's like it just changed like that, where okay, now we're down to negative temperatures. We did I think we did fairly good. We did get some hard back, but there's not, you get, the only thing the salt's gonna do is give you traction. You're not gonna melt it off when it's negative 2 degrees. You know, so.
Do we have any accessibility to sand when the salt doesn't work?
We could probably get some from the county, but the problem we have with that is, what do we do with it? Our trucks sit outside, and salt is hard enough. I mean, we have to dump them off. Cause if it gets below 0, and I did it once, I said, tomorrow morning we'll dump the trucks. You don't wait, you dump them off, you'll be there with a sledgehammer and a pick trying to get that stuff out of there, it's just crazy. I mean, if really push came to shove, and we had to use sand, I do have access at the county where I could go get a load, but I would have to use it and dump it right away, you know? Yeah, I could do that.
Cause I know you don't, the salt doesn't work under a certain temperature. You're
No,
not
I think
gonna-
we
It's not gonna work
salt
until it
it,
warms up again.
Just
so.
just for traction, you know? So we're trying to keep the roads as safe as we can, and I know we got the sheriff's department calling us, it's slippery and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not gonna melt it, because and even, we have some trucks that have tanks on them, that we could run calcium through them, but the pumps will freeze and our trucks sit outside, so we can't use that either. So, whatever. Give us a garage. Garage and a salt shed.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll vote for you next time.
Just a comment on Tuesday with the ice and that, we get a situation like that, we gotta go through a lot of salt. But my route is part of Merrill Hills, they don't call it Merrill Hills for anything. I did 60% of my route going backwards because the only way you can get traction. You gotta drop the salt to get the truck to move. And even sometimes you gotta come back down and get a running start again. So it was, probably took 2.5 times as much to get around that road just for the ice than it normally would for just a plain salting. So, and you gotta have the weight back there to get the traction too. So you get down to a certain point, you can't just run all the salt out and keep going. It's just not gonna work. So, there's a lot of places where, you know, the contractor probably had to go backwards, a couple of the other guys, the new guys, I told them, I said, don't slide forward, you know, just go backwards. So it's time consuming and difficult.
That's where I'm saying, I think sand will probably work better. You got more coverage with the sand and
Yeah.
you still got the grip. You don't,
Yeah, I mean,
you're not wasting all the salt.
yeah, it's the only way, brine doesn't get you the grip, that's why we gotta use the salt.
That freezes too.
Yeah.
okay. I kinda wanted to iterate exactly what you said in the beginning, Jerry. I knew what you guys were doing out there, and I called you a couple times. You said you had 3 trucks in the ditch and all this, and you know, I know what that's kind of like. And the ice is the worst possible thing we can have for weather as far as getting roads clean. I had a few calls. Lady called me in the morning and said how bad the roads were, and I kind of thought, well, I kind of know how bad the roads are, and it was almost like she was telling me it was my fault. And she emailed me back later in the afternoon and said, thank you for getting the ice off the roads, and I had nothing to do with that. The temperature warmed up and finally things started to melt, and that's what cleared the roads. So I know what you guys go through, and I do want to thank the fire department too, because you told me that they were out clearing the trees off the road.
They did a great job.
And that's another good thing for this village, as small as we are sometimes, that everybody pitches in when somebody else needs a hand, and I think that was very commendable of the fire department, and I wanted to commend you guys for going through what you went through out there. I know it didn't look pretty because of the ice and stuff and the slush, and people expect the roads to be clear bare by 2 hours after the storm starts, and that doesn't work.
We don't have a bare road policy in the.
No, I know we don't. We always said that years ago, we just do salt the intersections and the hills, but you and I talked the other night with the ice coming and stuff on flat roads where people were going in the ditch, so I kind of made an executive decision with you we need to put salt down all over just to keep, safe driving going on out there, so. Thank you guys again, and like I said, the entire village, the fire department, everybody for pitching in on this. This was a nasty storm. We had them in two big storms, so to speak, in a row there with the wet, heavy snow. And if anybody, I know not everybody plows snow, but I did it for a long time myself. And when you get this wet stuff and the cul-de-sacs we're talking about, when you get there with a blade that rolls off that plow blade and you can't do anything about that. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. And so whatever you guys did to clean that mess up, it's much appreciated, I think, so thank you. Moving on, anybody else with reports here that non-compliance from anybody? Have any questions on that? Nothing? Okay, let's move on. Approval of previous meeting minutes of December 28th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they are in the packet from December 20th of 2023.
Do we have a second? I'll second it.
I'll abstain my vote because it wasn't there.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the minutes of December 28th, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries with one abstention. Discussion and possible action items, renewal of IT support contract with the Levity.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted us to come up or not, but
Well, as long as you're here, you might as well come on up and put on a show. so.
Fantastic. So, yeah, I believe you have the information in the packet, or at least what that is and what the focus is with the renewal. We do a lot of work with Chris, try to meet with her and become, we are a part of your organization, the village, as your IT section, part of the piece. With the renewal, the biggest thing that we're running into, or we're seeing across the country, is cybersecurity. And that was a big focus on this, especially with villages size of yours. Although if I were to break into your system, you probably look at it and go, well, we don't have anything of value to you. Chris and I have had this conversation in the past. And you're right, we're not breaking in and getting your bank accounts and be like, well, so what, there's only so much in there. But it's the value of what happens when your infrastructure shuts down, when your fire department shuts down, when the sheriff's department shuts down. That's where you really want to focus on that cybersecurity, and that's what this policy, I shouldn't say policy, but this agreement does. It increases your cybersecurity tools, because in today's world, there are people out there that are doing everything they can to cause disruption in organizations, especially governmental organizations. So I want to leave it open to you. What questions do you have for Izzy and I that we can address?
And I think maybe I'll introduce myself too. So I'm Izzy Byer, Client Success Specialist for CSS. So I basically function as an account manager for you guys. So tickets, working with our engineers, equipment orders, scheduling, day-to-day operations, that's really kind of my focus. And Mickey is a VCIO, or Virtual Chief Information Officer.
Okay. Chris, do you have anything to add? Because you're the one that deals with all of this pretty much. Is there anything that's gonna change or different than what we've had in the past?
No, they've been very easy to work with, very helpful, very quick to respond, and we do, it has been quarterly meetings, it will be monthly meetings now to keep up on any new systems, security systems, the operating systems, and to make sure that all the computers are up and working correctly and aren't outdated, and that the equipment stays current.
Okay. Anybody from the board questions?
I've not been on the board while you guys had this discussion in the past. Is this a renewal, or is this a improvement, so this is more than what we're already doing?
This is it's a renewal and an improvement, both in one. So in the past, there were security tools in place, but in the IT world, security tools are only as good as probably the year that there was initially implemented in. So we always want to keep that one step ahead of the bad actors that are out there, and that's why the security tools are being implemented at this time.
Everything's cloud-based and everything else network-wise is all CGIS compliant?
Yes.
Are there a lot of competitors in your industry?
There are competitors that are out there. I think we differentiate ourselves with one of the things, that when I came on, one of the things I noticed was we really need to become more of an integrated part in your organizations. And that's what we do, and that's what Chris had said, we are meeting monthly, it used to be quarterly. So it doesn't work, because for us to be proactive, to work directly as not an outside vendor, but one that is a part of your team, we want to have these weekly or monthly meetings depending on what your needs are. And as we implement some of these security tools, we will meet weekly to make sure things are going in a smooth process. And as Chris requests more meetings, or should she request back off some meetings, we'll do that as well, so we become a part of your family.
What's our current cloud storage at now? Is 250 gigs enough? It doesn't go very far these days.
It's a great question. So that is, you have an on-premise server currently, and best practice is a 3-2-1 backup strategy. So 3 copies, are you familiar with the strategy? Okay. So 3 copies of your data, 2 different media types, and 1 is the cloud. So that is the cloud storage. And I think, what's the number next to the cloud storage there?
250 gig.
Is there a quantity next to it?
Oh, yep, 8. Sorry,
Okay,
missed that
yeah,
part.
so 2 terabytes of data.
2 terabytes,
Yeah.
right.
No, it's okay,
Yep.
great question, and these
Yep.
are the type of questions that we're here to help answer.
What's our current cost, based on what this is, how much difference is it?
It did go up, just about $900 for a year for the contract.
900 total?
Yes,
whole year?
for the whole year, yes.
And Chris, have other bids been
Chris.
solicited?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's $900 additional per month.
Oh, yes, you're right, because this is a per month, I'm
I was
sorry,
like, hold
yes.
on.
This is
Well,
a
that's
per
over
month
$10,000 a year.
check. Yeah, this is
So,
$3,600 a month, yes.
and the reason for that, like Mickey mentioned, is cybersecurity. So I'm sure you've heard all the stories in the news about all of these different local organizations getting hit, including, I think there was, it was in December, Rock County got hit, the cybersecurity incident. So municipalities do have a target on their back, so there are a number of things that we're looking to add in terms of cybersecurity, making sure that your organization is protected and that you aren't the next municipality in the news.
I know that, working with some of the other government entities that I need to work with, they require multifaceted authenticity.
Multi-factor authentication.
MFAs.
We call it MFA.
Yeah,
MFA.
MFAs, yes. And that's kind of where we're going with this too, so that it's harder to get into the information. You have to show that you are who you are. And we are also working with Mickey and Izzy to update the website so that it is more secure and it will become eventually a .gov, which has been recommended to us by a number of other government entities.
I know I get a lot of emails from companies addressing the cybersecurity issue as being a major problem these days, so I kind of relate to what you're saying. So,
Yeah, if you want the fun stat, 90% of attacks come through email.
So Chris, I had asked if this has gone out for bid.
No, because this was a contract renewal. This was not given enough time to do this because I was just made aware of it in the last month.
I'm sorry, so did Levity mention that the contract was up for renewal? Is that how you discovered that?
Correct.
So frankly, I'm gonna make a motion to table this renewal until we've solicited at least 3 bids for this.
This contract renews, this contract expires,
There's a
February
motion on the
14th,
table.
yes. I'm just telling you. Let me-
Here, this is $3,500 a month roughly. Frankly, I don't spend that in a year. My business is a lot smaller than the village operation, but this is a lot of money. We've got, I believe it's $40,000 allocated in the budget to do this. So we're within our budget, but at the same time, I think it makes sense. Chris, has this ever been bid out since you served as our clerk?
I've only been here a couple of years and no, the contract was here, started before I was here.
how long ago was this contract started, do you guys know?
So our contracts are 36-month agreements, so this one started 3 years ago.
3 years? I'm pretty sure it was out on bids then, I'm not.
Yeah, and this, this includes the fire department and all of their tablets and computers and such that they use down there also.
We'll say when you have this, you are getting a full IT staff that's local being there in Appleton. So should you have any issues that come up with your computers, with your accounts, whatever that may be, you're calling somebody here in Wisconsin to help support you. You have a dedicated support staff there just for the support desk. You have a team of engineers that are dedicated to you on site as well. And then you have, obviously, we're kind of the face of the organization that works directly with Chris on top of that. So that you have, when you say it's $3,600 a month, think of it as you've hired a staff of 15 people for your IT department. And you can start to break things down that way as opposed to hiring one person for the $40,000 per year that it comes out to.
But to be fair, I'm not knocking the service. I'm not criticizing the
Yep.
scope. I believe strongly in cybersecurity. So I'm in financial services, so we're right there with you.
Absolutely.
I just think we need to be good stewards of these resources. A comment was made at Citizens Comments several months ago about how do we measure the efficiency of what we're delivering to our residents, and I think this is a good way to do it. If we have a service that we need, and we need it, then we ought to at least see what the market will offer before we just ratify a renewal.
A couple things, Mike, I think I'm in agreement that way. The total amount actually is over where our budget is for the year by about $4,000, based on what this amount would be here. I know that was an issue all last year when I joined the board about being over budget on things, so, that's one of my concerns. I think you guys are doing a great job from the sounds of it with everything that's going on. We have no issues, so I don't take it personally that way. I think to Mike's point, though, is just being financially prudent with the village's funds. And so based on that, my question, I guess, would be is, because Chris is saying that the contract's gonna be ending here, do we maintain current levels of everything if we have to go another month before we make this decision? So we wouldn't lose any services, we'd still be at like 2023 rates for another month?
So, there is an escalator written into the contract, but I think put that on hold for 60 days post the expiration date, so.
Thank you.
I'd
Yeah.
appreciate that, so I'd second the motion then based on that, just to make sure that we're in the right place financially with the cost and services being provided.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to table this until when?
Until we have 3 bids solicited for our review.
Okay,
May I just ask a clarifying question? Does that 3 bids include ours? So 3 total?
No, in addition to 4 total. Good question.
And based on my experience, just for clarifying for your purpose, I've been in your seat before. I know sometimes you don't get solicitations, so if my suggestion, having been in your spot, would be the number of bids, 3 bids within a certain time frame. Otherwise, you may not get all those bids during that time, and you may not actually hit the number that you have requested here. So maybe say 30 days.
Thank you for saying that, actually, I was gonna bring that up, and
Okay.
just
Great
as you were
point.
saying it, so, because we just had that, and we're bringing up another item tonight with the electrical project, we had 0 bids on that, so. I don't know if we wanna put a number on it, I guess, I think it would be that we need to direct the clerk to put it out to bid, and what comes out to us is what we get, as long as it's
I would agree with
posted
that.
properly.
Yes.
No problem with that at all.
So, but that was part of the motion, right, was the.
We'd have to change the motion.
So I'll move then that, to direct the clerk to solicit 3 additional bids for the same scope of services.
That's not the
Right,
point, that's the point that we not get, just
We
solicit
might not
bids.
get 3 bids.
I understand soliciting is just asking for them.
Right.
So,
Right. So then-
correct, to solicit 3 additional bids for the same scope of services for the board to review with a deadline of 30 days. Does that capture everything that we just discussed?
Okay, Chad, do you want to second
I'll
that
second
motion
it
again,
again.
or?
Yep.
Okay,
Correct.
it's moved to table this until we get 3 bids in 30 days. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The one thing I would just like to add, if that's okay, as, you know, technology experts, we, work with a lot of municipalities. We are always available to help do an apples to apples comparison to make sure that you're looking at the same thing. So if that's something that you would like our assistance with, we are more than happy to help.
Okay, thanks. I'm sure Chris will be doing that, so. All right,
Sure thing.
Thank you.
moving on. The shared service, award bid for village campus electrical upgrade project. Colin, you wanna take this?
Sure. So we received 2 bids for the project, both well above the initial estimates. One from Will Surge Electric with a 20% change order and calendar days of construction. I'm reading directly off the bid tally sheet that I provided for the agenda. Will Surge Electric, 20% change order percentage with a calendar day construction contingent on delivery of the generator of 395 days. Their base bid, which was including upgrading the electrical service to be underground routed, $163,410. The alternate bid that they provided for doing replacing the overhead lines is $142,900. $950. The second bid was from Electech Incorporated with a 40% change order percentage, 168 calendar day construction. The base bid was $150,895, and their alternate bid was $123,660. The bids for this project, as called out in the letter that I also provided, do not include the do not include the cost for the utility work that is involved due to the utility not being able to provide that number until a application for change of service is signed and applied.
Okay. Would the electric guys, they do that on a cost per job basis, or do they give it, once you apply for it, then they will give you an estimate as to the cost?
Correct. So
Okay.
what would have to happen is the board would have to approve the project, of course, depending on which, if the base bid was selected or the alternate bid was selected, and then the utility would go from there. I did highlight in the letter the differences in scope of work that the utility would have to provide, just to try to give an idea of how much actual work would be involved with that. So the base bid, the differences between the base bid and the alternate bid. The base bid, the electrical utility would have to run service cabling down from the pole, from the new transformer, down to a CT cabinet and meter. The telecommunications utility that is also on the poles would then also be required to provide cabling from the pole location to the service location coming into the building. For the alternate bid, the electrical utility would install new poles as necessary for providing the overhead power lines from the new transformer to subsequent poles, and then to a location on the building down to a CT cabinet for metering purposes, and then it would enter the building.
Okay, questions, anybody? Had the chance to look at this?
I understand when we get the project engineered that we get an estimate, but how are we like double plus the cost of the project?
The initial estimate was done in January 2023, revised in September of 2023 when those additional items were requested.
Yep, and that letter said 85,000 was the estimate, and
Yeah, it was revised to 82,000. Due to labor rates and such changing, and the values that were applied from the initial estimate were from book values of 2021. The cost of materials and labor has changed quite a bit. However, it is, well, an estimate.
I don't see how we can proceed with this since the costs have blown up like this. Frankly, it feels, I want to be careful. The initial estimate is drastically different than what we're looking at today. So it stretches my imagination to see how that occurred. I really want to have the backup generator and the support for the guys, for our staff, for our residents. But it's difficult to pull the trigger on this. So that's where I'm at on these bids.
But I guess I stated in the letter, my recommendation was to go with Electech for the base bid amount.
Which again is almost double the original estimate.
Not including utility costs as well,
So more than double.
possibly.
Well, I think it's definitely, that's the way it looks to me, but,
no doubt about it. It's
Yeah.
no.
yeah, it's more than doubled, and we're not even talking about utilities yet.
And can you explain, so there's a column on this spreadsheet that says change order percentage?
So that is the amount allocated that they would, they're allowing themselves to, in their bid, that's already included in their bid, to, they apply an estimate for an allowance.
Overrun?
Right.
Okay, so that additional 40% is baked into, in this case for the Electech, for the base bid of $150,895, that's padded with an additional 40%,
That is correct.
just in case.
Correct.
And in your experience, what's the likelihood that the actual cost would be below this base bid? Because it could be over, or excuse me, no, it couldn't be over, correct?
That would be accurate, yes.
To clarify, because I asked kind of a two-pronged question, could the final cost exceed the $150,895?
To my understanding, correct, yes.
It could go even higher.
I apologize. Including utility cost, there is a possibility, yes.
Okay. And is it likely that the 40% change order percentage could be too conservative, and you know, we might see a 40% decrease on the final cost?
That is possible, however, I think that, unlikely, I would have to say that that'd be a discussion with the contract that would be involved with awarding the bid, of course.
That number, Mike, would be 108,000 if that was the case.
Which is still drastically higher.
Quite a bit higher. How did we use 2021 labor numbers if we were doing it in September of 23?
That was the values that we have on our virtual library. So that was the numbers that were available, and in a constantly changing supply economy, it's difficult to nail those numbers down, especially during the issues that we've been having.
I guess I ask because my concern is we've now spent more money on 2 bids because we pay you to do the bids, correct?
The initial amount, yes.
Okay. Which we got 0 bids the first time, and the second time we had to do it again, so I'm assuming there's gonna be a bill to have it go through a second time? Or either way, we had to pay for that bid. If we knew a better estimate, we probably wouldn't have paid to do the bid because it would have been way over what it should have been to begin with.
We have never requested any additional fee.
Well, either way, we still had to pay for the first bid, which we probably wouldn't have done if we had a better estimate for the cost. If our estimate was more accurate.
You're saying instead of
We wouldn't have wasted the money on doing the bid with Angus Young, we would have just said this project's dead, because they gave us a better, true estimate to what this would have been. I don't understand why we're using 2021 numbers for things. I know things change and stuff, but I don't understand how that worked. I agree, I don't think we can go anywhere with this at this point. It's not even in the budget to begin with.
I agree.
I agree too. I mean, I can't believe we can't get a closer estimate than 40%. Either way, I think that's abnormal to me of all the bids I've done. And we still don't know what the utilities are gonna meet, so we have no clue what the price that's gonna be and where that's gonna put us at, but, I'm an old also.
I said this has been one of my pet projects for a long time, was to get a generator put in here, because it's been discussed, I think, for 10 years, as far as I remember correctly. But I agree with everybody here that I think this is way above what we're prepared to pay, considering it's not in our budget. So I think we need to probably table this.
I'll move to table it.
I'll second, I have another comment, I guess, too.
Did you have another comment first?
I do.
Go ahead.
Go ahead with your comments, but before you vote, you have to tell, I don't know what a tabling means when you've got a bid. You're either gonna act on the bid or you're not gonna act on the bid, and all due respect, you're tabling indefinitely, tabling it to study further, or directing the clerk to reject all bids, and you're gonna go back to the drawing board. I don't have a problem with tabling, it's a legal motion, but I don't know what the intent of the motion is,
So to clarify my intent, well, my intention is moot, because I'll rescind the motion and move to reject the bids.
Okay,
But,
go ahead.
I'm good with that, but then are we just saying the project's dead then? Based on that, we're not gonna.
I don't know that the
I guess
project's,
to the attorney's point, then at that point, are we,
Well, there's
we're not
no
gonna ask
reason
for
you
another
can't.
set of bids.
No, but there's no reason you can't go back as a group and relook at the project and decide what maybe could be removed, what can't be removed, we've done that once before. And, I mean, that's what most communities would do, would direct that it be placed on the next agenda to review, without having the consultants here and things like that, to review what, if anything, you want to do going forward. Is that a fair response?
Well, this might be something that we could discuss at the upcoming fire station workshop.
Yeah, I'll second the motion then. I still do have a comment though.
Your motion was to reject?
we have two motions, I think, here.
No,
I
you
rescinded the initial and then moved to reject these bids.
Okay. that's
Okay,
what I
but
wanted to
then,
make sure.
did you
Yeah.
second it,
I
Chad?
seconded that,
Okay,
yes.
then you need to go along, that you willing to reject?
Yeah, I'm seconding to reject the bids.
Oh, I didn't hear the second on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, just making sure I have.
Motion is to reject the bids.
I do have one more comment, Bob. I think just for the board in general, I'm very concerned based on the fact that we were so far off in these estimates and they're using, to my, I guess, I'll say old numbers. Cause the other project was just brought up, and I don't know I wanna spend any more money with this company if they can't even get anywhere near the estimate towards the fire department, cause that's gonna make our $5 million fire department $15 million based on, how they're working with this. So I'm concerned moving forward on the other project, so that's, I just wanted to say that.
Agreed.
That's all,
Okay,
thank you.
That could be another issue
Yep.
at another time if you
Yep.
wanna do that, but right now, the motion on here is to reject the bids. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries? Okay,